Hi, my name is Kevin Crowley. I'm an attorney here with the law offices of Hupp and Crowley, and today I'm here to talk to you about theft. So, what is theft? Theft is basically taking the property of another without permission or using services and not paying for them. So, we're going to talk about theft much more in detail, but first I'd like to tell you just about a couple of kind of interesting cases we've had with theft charges, so you can see how these work in real life. First case I'm going to tell you about, very strange. A plant was taken off of a porch, and unlike in most theft cases where somebody reports the theft, there might be video of it or something like that, an officer actually was down the street in his patrol car, saw the vehicle stop, saw somebody get out, run to the porch, run back with something large in their hands. As I said, it turned out to be a potted plant. Very interesting case because, one, what are you doing with a potted plant? Two, because we have an officer eyewitness. In that case, we're not going to be able to argue that our client was not the person who was the one who took the plant off the porch. Identity is not an issue. Whether the item was hers wasn't really an issue. But what was an issue was some mental health issues, actually. She had actually believed that she needed flowers for a funeral. Now, we were able to take records and show those to the prosecutor and work out a resolution based on that. Obviously, that's not a high-stakes kind of case. We're not dealing with a whole lot of money here. But I'll tell you about another case where there was $100,000 taken by an employee of a business. Now, one of the features of the theft statute is that if it is alleged you've taken more than $100,000, you are now no longer eligible for probation. Even if it's your first offense, you could be sent to prison. So this was basically the unauthorized use of a credit card. Now, what we did in that situation was we had a forensic accountant come into the case and detail all of the monies that were potentially missing. We were able to show that it wasn't above $100,000, it was actually below $100,000, and that took her out of being prison mandatory and allowed for her to get a probation deal, which saved her some time with her family and kids and all that sort of stuff. That was a very good result for her. So, what is theft? Legally, I think we all know theft is taking something that doesn't belong to you. But legally, what it is, it's the intent to deprive somebody of their property. So if you have the intent to deprive someone of a particular item, say a book, a car, whatever it may be, if you intend to give it back, usually you're going to be okay. Except if the time that you're using it has not been authorized by the person who the property belongs to. So let's say I loaned a book to a friend of mine for 1 week. I told him he needed to bring it back in 1 week. He kept it for 2 weeks. That second week is an unauthorized term of use, and you can be charged with theft for doing that type of thing. Services are another big issue when it comes to theft. You oftentimes see this in the bar areas, in downtown Scottsdale, near Westgate, things like that, with people failing to pay for taxis or things like that. One other way to commit theft is to find property and then not make an effort to find out who the owners of that property are. Basically, if you find any sort of property and there is a means to find out who the owner might be, you're required to go through that process. And if you don't, again, you could be charged with theft. Theft is classified based on the amount involved. Above $25,000 can be a Class 2 felony. Anything below $1,000 is a Class 1 misdemeanor, and we have everything in between. So depending on what the value of the item that is at issue is, or depending on how much money was taken, you're going to end up with a different classification of felony or misdemeanor, which is definitely going to impact the potential penalty involved. There are plenty of defenses to a theft charge, showing that the alleged victim actually authorized the use or authorized the transfer of the property to you is going to be a defense to the charge of theft. The identity of the culprit is also going to be an issue during most of these cases. As I mentioned, most theft cases are not cases where you have an officer eyewitness who can ID the person. Sometimes you have a civilian eyewitness who might be able to describe the person. Those people tend to be less detailed than the officers, and you don't end up with the real great descriptions in these cases most often. So if we can dispute identity, there's a possibility that you can get out of that charge. There are also numerous constitutional defenses that we can present, such as illegal searches or Miranda violations. These are particularly prevalent in theft cases because you're dealing with property that the officers are trying to find. So in many cases, you'll have a situation where a person is stopped in a vehicle and the officer searches the car. In that situation, the officer may be authorized to do that, but he may not. So you're going to want to look into that. Miranda violations as well. People admit to things that they shouldn't. So if you're ever contacted by police, please take this advice and use those Miranda rights. Remain silent. That helps us out tremendously when we're working the case later on down the road. But if there was an admission and it wasn't properly advised, then that admission might be thrown out. So if you have theft charges that you're facing in Arizona, we here at Lane, Hupp and Crowley can help you with those charges. We have years and years of experience in dealing with these charges. We'd be happy to help you, and I look forward to hearing from you.